Oh, you're recording too.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool too.
Yeah, so we actually put them up on the Bectu website and the YouTube channel. But I can send it to you both after we're done.
Cool.
Where are you today, Gail?
I live in County Meath, about 45 minutes north of Dublin.
Ah, okay, nice. Is it on the coast?
No, just inland, slightly northwest of the coast.
Okay.
From Dublin.
Nice.
Proper countryside.
Yeah. Not like you, Kate, you little city dweller.
Village life.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We've just kind of opened the gates, so we're just waiting for everyone who's registered to come in. So we'll be kicking off in a couple of minutes. If you want to say hi to the panel members on the chat function, please do so. And then I'll take us through a quick intro before we crack on. I've actually really loved the little chat function because we've been doing these for like 2 months, and people keep on going like, hi from Sydney, hi from LA, hi from Copenhagen. And I'm like, who? Like, how did it even get there, you know?
Yeah, look, hello everybody. It's so cool. Yeah, I like
it. Cool, that's nice. Oh, Lucy says she's really excited for the webinar. Great. Yeah. Oh, someone's saying hi from Kate's house. Little troublemaker.
To the other room. Yeah. I've evicted husband and child.
Have you?
You what? I've evicted the husband and the child. Oh. And the bird and the dog are out in the hall. There'll be no interruptions. Yeah, exactly. It's the safest way. Otherwise, sometimes little heads appear.
Yeah.
Oh, very funny.
I love that that video of the politician where he's doing a really serious kind of live broadcast from his house, and the kids just like zoom in from the back. Oh god, really good.
Nanny desperately trying to retrieve while she's down as if she can't be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a politician who decided to conduct his meeting in his underwear.
Did you?
He had no idea that he was showing. Oh my god, so he was top half dressed? Yeah. Okay, I missed that one, but I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, see, someone's from Uganda. Wonderful.
Wow.
I know.
I was telling Kate the other day, I've had a lost connection with a friend from Australia who has watched Normal People, found my own email, and has recontacted me.
Wow.
Amazing. My pal from Australia is now back in touch, and I'd lost her, all her details were gone. I couldn't track her. Her name had changed, so I couldn't find her on Facebook. You know, it was mad. And then suddenly,
that's amazing.
Last week, we're back in touch after 8 years. Amazing. So superb. So there you are. Normal People brought us back together.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so it's about 3 minutes past, so we've got about 140 on the call. Kate, you're quite glad about that, aren't you? Because when I told you about the 300 yesterday, you freaked out a bit. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nia Hughes. I'm an organising official for what's known as the London Production Division of Bectu. If you are not in the union, Bectu is the trade union for freelancers and staff who work across film, TV, theatre, cinemas, and live events. We have a special offer today for anyone who's working in the camera department or in the AD department. and that is that if you'd like to join, then it's £7.50 a month for the first year. I will put some details in the chat function about how you can apply and take it from there. So a couple of house rules first. Really sorry, very boring, but you'll see that there's a chat function at the bottom, and there's also a Q&A function. Please, if you can, keep the chats to the chats. You can talk about whatever you want in there, but we'll be opening the questions and answer at the end. And please, if you can, also don't put statements, because we know that people love a statement. And everyone's quite excited about having Kate and Gail with us. But yeah, if you could just please put the questions in question formats, that would be wonderful. We also are recording it, so we'll be sending that out, and it'll be available on the Bectu website and also the Bectu YouTube channel in due course. So Kate and Gail, if you could do a really, really brief, quick introduction to yourselves, please, including surnames, which someone has already asked for.
Okay, my name is Kate McCullough, and I'm a cinematographer, and myself and Gail worked on episodes 7 to 12 on Normal People, and I'm based in Dublin. Very good. I'm Gail Munnelly, married name of Cullen, but most people at work still know me as Munnelly, hence that's what I use for my work name. First AD, again on Normal People, we were lucky enough to get in and be part of a fantastic production. And yes, we did 7 to 12. I'm based just north west of County Dublin in a place called Kilmessan, County Meath. Yeah, so I think between the two of us, we had a great time in the job. It was super.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I have a couple of questions that we're going to start off with, and Kate, you're also going to bring some stills in here and there. So here we go. So Kate, Connell and Marianne have a very intense relationship, and I think somehow you've managed to capture not only the raw sexual and romantic chemistry between those two characters, but also the complex, deeper undertones of their connection. So like the many glances, the awkwardness, the physicality between both bodies, and also skin, for example. What was your experience of shooting in that way? And for you, what was important to take away from the book and to adapt it onto the screen?
Okay, I'm getting slight interference, but I've got the gist of your question. So I hope it's not breaking up at your end. That's good. So yeah, I mean, I guess like the book Normal People, like Sally Rooney just has an incredible way of sort of forensically breaking human interaction and sort of like the kind of almost clinical descriptions of human behavior. And there's a great sort of angularity to it in the sort of like macro to sort of jumping out and seeing the bigger picture. And so yeah, it was and I mean, what a challenge to adapt that to screen. And I guess I was kind of equally terrified and excited at the prospect of it. But it's, you know, it's how do you translate that over and carry it through so that you really kind of keep that distinct voice alive on screen. And so and Susie had established the look for the first block, which would have been episodes 1 to 6, about, I guess, kind of carrying that look over into our block and sort of building on it. For, I guess we had sort of pretty complex, dark themes to explore in the latter part of the book. So it was about kind of holding a continuity of that look and also building on it.
Okay, great. Are these the slides that you'd like to show in that case?
I actually can't multitask.
That's okay, no worries. Go ahead.
Even though it's just like pressing a button while I'm talking, I might let me try the next round. So, you know, we would have used diopters to kind of get these little details, and then jumping out to get sort of the wider picture. But I think that like both Paul and Daisy, you know, they were able to, you know, retain that sense of their performance, even though we were working quite closely in around them. And you know, it became kind of a dance in a way, I think, really just to kind of like find where he's comfortable with the camera and where they need to be also to so they were really collaborative on that level to sort of really go for it.
I think I know this is Kate's question, but I think what was amazing again with Daisy and Paul, they were able to convey all those small nuances that, again, Hetty and Kate were then able to sort of, you know, we'd do a rehearsal, you go in and you'd do a camera rehearsal, and suddenly there'd be little moments in their performance, because they were both so stunning, that allowed Kate and Hetty, you'd see it, that little live moment, you know, then you have to get in there and see that moment. And then, as I said, between Kate and Hetty, I mean, some of the shots are so spectacular and so fantastic. And again, all about finding those little, it is that thing about those little moments of awkwardness, or all those little nuances that would sell that emotion. And for Daisy and Paul, and with Hetty, because she worked through the emotional beats with them so beautifully when they do sit down and talk through scenes where they actually were coming, there definitely was never a sense that they were acting the scene. They were truly feeling the scene as they went through it. And that I said, so the connection that Hetty had, which was so great with them, allowed them that sort of freedom, which then allowed Kate and Hetty to find those little moments. But really, they just really made it sell on camera, I think. So from the paper to the screen, it was all those little moments that they conveyed, I think, really helped.
Yeah, because in the book, you know, you definitely get kind of stuck inside their relationship somewhat, and I think what's kind of beautiful about it, but also so effective, is that it's so human what their kind of connection is and what their relationship is, and I think you know, both yourself and the other cinematographer, Kate, have just done such a gorgeous job, I think, of capturing that on actually what I felt was quite deeper levels, especially for something that we were watching on telly.
I mean, I think also, like, what was incredible in a way was that, like, you know, the episodes were divided into half hours, and like, on one level you might feel like that's going to be a very rushed piece of screen time to you know, tell a chapter of the book, but somehow the pacing of it still it allows for the audience to kind of consider and think for themselves, as opposed to being kind of told what to think. And I think this, the sort of subtlety of gestures or expressions kind of lend itself to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, Gail, so you were faced with this immense challenge as the first AD of the shoot overall, and you know, from now quite famous intimacy scenes, to shooting 4 seasons in what was essentially one summer, as well as like shushing up tubber curry, which I've heard is it called tubbers? Is that how it's how it's known as? You know, to choosing up like tapakari to represent Christmas, but that you also decided to go recceing with Hetty, the director, and Kate in prep, something that not all ADs do. What made you undertake this decision, and what impact do you think it had on the production for you? Was there anything specific you wanted out of that? And were there any specific challenges considering the sheer amount of variation in scene requirements?
Okay, so there's
it's a big question.
a lot of questions. I'll try and sort of keep it concise, but I said what was helpful was the fact, again, it's the first time I was a block 2 first, and usually I would have a whole team in the office and everyone would be busy working and we're all trying to establish everything and figure everything out. But where I realized I could seize an opportunity was block 1 was already up and running. So my whole AD team, amazing as they all were all flat out and busy shooting what was already up running as a show. And then I got wind of the fact that when Kate and Hetty had started their conversations, and they were started very early in prep, and Hetty was very strongly wanting to go to all of the sets and the locations where Kate and herself could just be together to sort of figure everything out, understand the location, start to feel a sense of what the location is, how they were going to plan their shots, get a sense of each other. Again, all 3 of us had not worked together before. So I knew I had an opportunity lurking. So luckily for me, because not all DOPs and directors are necessarily on board with wanting the person to be there all the time. Let's put it that way. Obviously, there's lots of time we all sit and go through stuff, but in the likes of what was their so-called director, DOP recce's on locations and on all the sets, I think predominantly, I'd say, Kate, you probably spent 80% of your prep time out on the sets and the locations with Hetty, at which point both of the girls were happy for me to jump along with them. And of course, I said, obviously, I came because they were happy for me to do so, but that was invaluable for me to spend. I literally just tagged myself wherever they were going. I turned up alongside them. But obviously there was lots of times where when we go to a house or go to one of our locations, whatever it might be, I'd sit and be part of the conversation, but then I'd give the guys their free space, but I'd still be lurking close by. I'd have my laptop, so it's close and stuck in my desk. I worked alongside where they happened to be. And it meant that even though I was working away on doing what I was doing with my scheduling, no matter what was being discussed, in my subconscious, I was starting to get a sense of how Kate and Hetty were planning on working and how they were getting along. And also starting to, again, as I said, as much as I was earwigging, you're sitting there listening to all the bits, allowing them to do their thing. But all of that subconscious information is so invaluable because it meant I was steps ahead. A lot of the times, and again, there's DOPs and directors who want to just go there, they wouldn't want anyone else to be part of that. And then they come back and try and convey the information to me. And of course, there's bits that are going to get missed, or then I have to constantly ask questions. So the time saving was pretty monumental that I got to be with those girls the whole time and literally start to understand where the important scenes were. Again, I'll put my hand up. I am not the creative. I am willing to get involved and help out and do all of that. But my job is the scheduling and the logistical end and figuring out where our timelines are going to be in the day. But having had that time with Hetty and Kate at all the locations while they were both recceing it and figuring it out for themselves, it allowed me to already have information just set in my head. Yeah. So we didn't have to then sit and work for hours for them trying to tell me what they'd like or what they didn't like. And I think that was massive, because then when we did sit down, if we did come back and sit down in the office to go through our schedule, that meant we were already in a good place and I understood what was good or what was important. I might read a scene and the first time I might think that's not really the most important, whereas maybe to Hetty it's a really important moment which I might have missed, you know. But I had already started hearing all the different ways how we wanted to shoot it, or can we make this work if we aren't able to see out the window. So let's say it could be night work that I now know we're able to go and do a blackout, or no, absolutely this scene we have to be. So again, just subconsciously having heard all of those conversations while Hetty and Kate meticulously went through every scene on every location, that was amazing. I mean, it was like me getting a big gold sweet, and you know, that's the first AD. It is. It's like it's been given a sweet, because I have so much more information as opposed to being left in the dark, where I'm stuck in the office and I'm just sitting trying to schedule, but you're sort of sometimes scheduling blind till you manage to get the director Kate and the DOP, the director Hetty and the DOP Kate together, and you have to then tweeze all the information out. So it was fantastic, and it was invaluable. And again, where you know, so those director DOP recce's were superb. And then where you said that linked on to, you were saying, you know, how one of your other questions was all about how we sort of managed to schedule through all the seasons, and, you know, was the schedule hard because of the intimacy scenes? And again, the intimacy scenes, we had our intimacy coach, who did lots of work prior to our shoot days with Hetty and the cast. So again, they were in a comfortable place and a position as they came to set, and an understanding themselves of what they were about to embark on. So for us, scheduling wise, absolutely intimacy, you know, scenes. If you suddenly have a certain number of pages in a script, and you've a certain amount of days, and you break down the average or whatever, obviously the page counts you're going to achieve on intimacy scenes will be much less than on obviously a normal standard day where you've just got people having conversations. I said what was great and gave us a big help was we had our intimacy coach. A lot of all those scenes were all pre-rehearsed and planned and understood, and obviously there's always going to be flexibility in the day. But again, I'll also say Daisy and Paul, I know we gave them a nice environment and comfortable environment and a safe environment to work on, but Daisy and Paul were, again, I can never take my hat off to them enough. I think what they did and how professional and how great they were really allowed us to make it through some of those days for the intimacy scenes. And again, I said, obviously, Hetty and the intimacy coach, and they would have had it well planned and understood where they were, and we had safe words for them if they, you know, during scenes and all of that. So that all made it achievable for those. But that then in turn turned other days to heavy days. Yeah. With days where we had an awful lot of sets to get through. So it meant we unfortunately didn't have the most perfect schedule where you'd have it all streamlined, because we would have to have moves within our days. So unfortunately for Hetty, for your director, you want her to have much shooting time, or for Kate, you want the camera turning over. But unfortunately, we had quite a few sets, and yes, we absolutely rationalized stuff. But unfortunately, there's times where you'd have lost time because we're physically just having to move from one place to another.
Yeah, and there's actually quite a lot of kind of dusk and dawn sex in it as well, or intimacy scenes, you know, where they're like, you know, even if they're just kind of lying in bed, you know, like you have that beautiful street lamp light that comes into Connell's room, for example. So were you also quite constricted, or had to schedule around, you know, the certain type of light that you also wanted to capture?
Well, I think that's where, again, having been on the recce's, the early recce's, back to that same first question, again, the great thing is, which obviously shows what an amazing job that Kate did, and the art department and the lighting guys and whatever, is there was real locations, and then Connell's bedroom was a set. So they tied kind of seamlessly together. As did many of the locations tied seamlessly together, because I said the art department and Kate made the matching lighting, made the set feel the same, gave the same intention with dingle outside the window. So therefore we had a heavy night time. There was a lot of night work within the schedule. So that meant Kate, that again was a moment where Kate and Hetty would weigh up, okay, this has to be night. And then, look, we're going to have to cut our cloth somewhere because we don't have enough night for night to shoot everything. Yeah. So again, I would have been hearing all the little chats between Kate and Hetty, and then obviously we would have sat down and gone through, okay, no matter what happens, these are the paramount, we have to make them night. Yeah. And we'll look at the others and we're going to black out. And again, Kate, jump in there or whatever. But that's, you know, that became a big thing for the three of us to rationalize.
That must have been so amazing for you to kind of gather that that kind of information by being with them. Like, if you were going to do on your next job, for example, or for the ADs who are on the call, would you like recommend that as a kind of a better way of working, I suppose?
It is, and I said presently the job I'm on now, the director also wants me pretty much by her side, which again for me is a plus. Unfortunately, depending on the job, and especially if you're in the first block, you don't necessarily always have the luxury to be able to do that. So absolutely, if you see, as a first AD, if you see that opportunity and it's there, and if the DOP and the director are willing to allow you be part of that, because I've also worked with people who wouldn't be interested in that. They want to do their thing, and then they want to come and talk to you in a very just, physical matter of this needs to be that, and give you the information.
Okay.
I said, I'll just say I was lucky because I said Hetty and Kate basically embraced bringing me into the triangle with them. We are a triangle when we're shooting, but not always necessarily get to be as together as much as we did in the prep on this job.
Okay. And did it help you, Kate? Was that the first time that you had also worked like that?
Yeah, it was probably the first time I've had that sort of intensive communication in prep with first and director, and it was hugely helpful. I mean, it's just, then you can start to move on to a kind of shorthand, which to save time in prep is massive. And then even when you get back to the locations on the day, Gail already knows what we have in mind. Okay, there might be some adjustments on the day, but there's just such a great kind of groundwork put in there, and you just kind of get to know each other better and how each other likes to work. Also, just out on location, it's different than sitting around the table in an office. It's just it's a much more active dynamic and more reflective of what's going to happen on set, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like being in a car going on recce's with someone, and kind of sharing coffee or kind of just like being with your thoughts as well. Like, it must be such a different way to just being in an office around a table. It's a completely different landscape in a way, isn't it, of working?
Absolutely. And
I mean, it's once you get onto location, it's just so much more stimulating, in terms of moving the whole sort of conversation forward. There's a certain amount you can do in the office, and it is certainly helpful if you need to be checking in with many departments. But just in terms of my work, say with Hetty and figuring out how we're going to approach the episodes, then it's just
I think also there's locations which we wouldn't have been able to get to. So when you go in your standard recce's prior to your shoot, there's never enough time necessarily to get through necessarily all the nitty gritty. So therefore I already had the information I knew, and therefore it was fantastic. Even before our recce's, I was already spreading information down through departments. So even for our actual recce's prior to shoot, there was information that people had that they may or may not have, depending on time when you're under pressure on the normal recce's, that hopefully got conveyed prior to that, so people were prepped ahead again. And we shot obviously in the real Trinity, which for Owen Houlihan, who was our location manager, was like running a military operation. Trinity is set in Dublin. It's obviously our main, one of our biggest colleges here, and he had to do up a document that basically specified where we were going to be every moment of the day. So we had to make a document that showed, you're coming in for your breakfast today, and we were going to be moving from one area to another from half an hour here. You had 45 minutes to shoot this. We were moving over to the pavilion at this time, and we literally had a document, and that became a rigid document. And I know Kate, Hetty, and myself spent an awful lot of time in Trinity prior to even our recce's, just figuring for Owen, because he wouldn't have got permission to go in there.
Okay, yeah.
To give him absolute detailed information, which was not really flexible. Now they did give a little bit of flexibility, but I mean, we're talking 15 minutes. It was like we had to run like a well-oiled machine in there, get from one place to the other, and always thinking one step ahead. So we had cameras on the move, leapfrogging ahead to get to places. Crew, cast, the ADs would have, like the ADs did amazing work at the Trinity location. They'd, you know, I'd ask them to get into the exam hall, for example, where we're filming, so they'd have that already pre-set up and ready. So when we came in, where they're sitting, and we literally had to keep going at that speed through Trinity, and stay with our timeline, which we couldn't have done if we hadn't had so much time spent together. And
right.
The same in Tubbercurry for the Christmas lights I heard you mention earlier. So the council in Tubbercurry said, we're going to put lights up, but we're not going to come and put them up and take them and put them up again. So you need to tell us where you'd like lights hanging, where you want the Christmas tree, where you want whatever. And in all the little streets within Tubbercurry, that meant Kate and Hetty had to make decisions on that scene is going to be there. And if it's in June and you change your mind, you want to look that way, and there's Christmas lights, you can't, you know. So again, that was another one that was really hard, but again, had to be pre-figured. So it took a lot of detailed planning between the three of us.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of you having shot that all in summer blows my mind, and I think that in itself, you know, Gail, you could probably you know, run an entire workshop on the logistics of that, you know.
With Christmas, and then also became obsessed with trees, whether they had what month is it? What month is it? Okay, it's June. We can see great shoot, yeah. You know, so, and that happened at every location in Trinity, every location we went to, because we were going from year to year through different seasons. And also we had an amazing special effects group when we did our snow sequences. And again, I think the seamless meld from what was shot at the real locations and then brought to Ireland with our special effects, snow effects, worked really well. But again, they all had to be really well planned. But again, I couldn't have done it if Kate and Hetty weren't so open to giving me so much information.
Amazing. Okay, the next question is actually about the kind of connection between yourself and Kate, but also when Kate and I kind of had an informal discussion about this panel the other day, she was saying, you know, how different your energies are. You know, she was saying that she's like quite calm and quite kind of methodical and quite I think the word you said was slow, Kate, but I think she means measured. And you know, she was saying, Gail, that you're like, you know, this kind of burst of energy, and that you're like bubbly, and that you're just kind of on it, you know, all the time. But then we kind of like hit on this really interesting part of the discussion actually, which was that Kate was saying that the producers actually kind of curated that in terms of bringing the crew together for this show, which I, you know, maybe it's because I haven't spoken to enough crew, but that felt quite new to me, like that sense of kind of casting, you know, casting crew. Like, how important was it? Like, how important has that kind of dynamic been? And the second question is, how important is it, like, how important is that relationship between the DOP and the first AD? God, another really big question. I'm so sorry.
No, it's a really good question. I mean, I think the casting of crew is brilliant in a way to think on that level. Like, my department would have been set up prior to me coming on by the wonderful Susie Lavelle. So she did a great job on gathering that department. So I wasn't necessarily part of the casting conversations, but I certainly felt like, yeah, that the crew was very supportive, stepping, you know, because they were already up and running for probably 8 or 9 weeks, and then myself and Gail and Hetty coming in to sort of keep that sort of mechanism going. And so it's really important, I guess, to, you know, with the three of us, that we're all kind of communicating and, you know, that we're way through the day. And particularly, I think, with the first AD and the DP, like it's, if, you know, the whole thing just goes belly up, you know, that's kind of the bottom line in a way. So, you know, I was saying to Gail, like the other day, you know, that I often feel communicative, like, you know, that I can, like, maybe sometimes just go a bit quiet, figure something out. And I can feel Gail is like trying to, you know, gather the information. But, you know, the great thing is, oh, Gail has a point, is it? No. I think the great thing with Gail is that she recognized what my, you know, what my pattern was, and then would sort of like step in then when, you know, I was ready to kind of give over that information, or at least I was more amenable. Times when you're just kind of thinking, oh my God, how are we going to deal with it? And you have to just kind of, well, my thing is just to try and be calm, and because otherwise I just can't kind of tackle the problem. I don't really like a set when people are shouting at each other. It's just not for me, like, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So what's great is, you know, Gail also likes to work that way, you know, but she has that sort of energy where, you know, she keeps things turning, where I might sort of like start to wander off in another direction, and then she's like, no, over here.
Did you have to herd her, Gail?
Yeah, so that whole thing. Yeah, we are absolutely two completely different personalities, 100%. And I said, to me, it's about, you know, it's a relationship. Again, like a bit like where Kate was saying, what was great for me is at the beginning when I got the call about doing the job, etc. And I was told, you know, the first block is going to be up and running. And again, I had a little bit of anxiety about, oh, I'm going to be stepping into a second block, because then you haven't set it up. But as I said, I had Dara was the first AD who I've worked with over the years from a long time. So therefore I knew the system for my team, a bit like where Kate was going, she was happy that it all been in a good situation. I had total faith that my team was going to be okay. And I know that I'm going to step into systems of how I do things, because there's definitely systems of how different people work. And therefore, once I stepped into my system with all the AD team who I kind of knew, and again, that's where you're saying they're casting. So like Catherine McGee and Catherine Dunn, the producer and line producer, would have looked and made, you know, they obviously would know that we got on, and therefore, obviously, if Dara and me were both the first, that all the rest of the team were people we knew. So there was going to be a continuity for the systems in place, for the cast all the way through, for the crew all the way through, how we would work a set or run a set. But then jumping down to the line of what would be the communication and the relationship between me and Kate, I think what's important is that falls into a triangle of three of us. So me, Kate, and Hetty become the triangle. And we become intertwined in all the decisions within the day. But I love that where Kate goes, you know, there's DOPs, and it's about reading your crew. For me, I'm not a shouty first. I'm not in bombarding. I'd rather win the crew over, and then we're all there as a team together. And I think the productivity is doubled once you're in that sort of situation, because you're now all together. We all want this to be something great and something brilliant. And if you can win the team over and we're all there as a group, it makes it a much better and a nicer place to be. But it said, if the director and the DOP aren't getting on, my life becomes a little bit of a nightmare, because now you're people managing two people and trying to smooth things out, which for me on this, that wasn't a problem for me. So therefore, and you know, the little triangle of the three of us worked really well. But we're three very different personalities. And yes, it would be that moment where there's DOPs who I work with, and I've put more pressure, or I would be on maybe more on top of, because they need it, if you want to say. Kate, I knew I had to, with Kate, I knew I had to treat Kate differently, because I knew if I put like a pressure on in a certain way, I think it would hinder how you were working, Kate. So I learned to read from Kate how she wanted to work, and allow, and I said, I think it was most important once we went in and blocked a scene, you needed your processing time to figure in your head, so you're even then able to give more, you know, suggestions for Hetty, because at the end of the day, we're here to service the director. So myself and Kate needed to be able to read each other. So she knew there's times when then I put the pressure on, she knows, okay, if Gail's really putting pressure on that, you know, I think it's really important that the DOP and the first learn to read each other. And again, obviously, if you don't have a good working relationship, it runs all the way down through the set.
Yeah.
And the entire set becomes a place that is uncomfortable. You can feel the tension in the air. And then the poor cast come in, and no matter what, you can still feel the tension. So the relationship, I think, between the first and the DOP is absolutely imperative, as much as the triangle of the DOP, the director, and the first.
Yeah.
They are getting on well, and the communication is open. The set then is there's a positive energy. And again, I think where Kate's saying I'm bubbly or whatever, you know, this job obviously had a huge amount of emotional stuff. So I mean, to me, it was about, I want to give the crew energy for us all to make it through a day, and do it in a nice positive manner, as opposed to we're behind. You know, it's a lot of, I've been on sets myself coming through the ranks and whatever, where it's negative stuff that's been saying we're behind, we need to, you know, it's all negative. It's like, where it's trying to keep the crew positive. Okay, can we all think ahead? What can we do? We've like 2 hours left. We've a lot to do. So I'd be talking to the grips and say, is there any information I can get from Kate for you? So I would, even though Kate may not be, I may be talking to the crew going, if you think there's something coming up that you need a little more information on, I'll go and I'll poke Kate. They know you know, there was never downtime on the job. The job was full on. We were full on schedule. So again, there'd be times where other crew members wouldn't necessarily want to be poking and annoying Kate with questions, but I'm happy to do that because I have no in that. You know, so I would constantly be saying to various crew, if there's anything that helps us with what's coming up in an hour's time, like whether it's getting a ladder pot or whether it's for lighting, setting something, or should we run up and look at the next set and have a quick peek so at least the sparks can be changing the lighting. So I said, it's about learning to read each other. I think that so there was, you know, that thing where you're saying the relationship, first and foremost, if you can get on, right? And if you don't get on, then you just have to work through it. But I think what it is, it's about reading each other and learning how each other works, and learning to read the best way to get the best performance out of each other.
It sounds like you run the kind of ship that I like, Gail.
Yeah, you know, there was times where I know that, you know, I knew we'd be way behind, and I know Kate would want to give one other shot to Hetty. And again, we'd just do a weigh up, we'd have our conversation, say, okay, do you know what, this scene compared to the next scene, let's cut our cloth like for one bit of coverage on the next scene, and let's get another shot here because I really think that'll be, you know, and it could be, you know, some emotional beat that's just turned up. And I think that was important. It's about us reading each other. And I said, then the cast can step in on a set, and it's comfortable and positive, and then they're open to a good performance because they're not feeling the tension between us.
Yeah, and I think it's testament to not only you two, but like for everyone who's worked on that. I mean, I obviously don't know the ins and outs, but I think it's quite clear to see from those performances that I don't think actors would have gone to that length, I don't think, if they weren't feeling nurtured and cared for and safe, you know. So I think it's definitely testament to kind of everyone who's worked on that. So you can give yourselves a pat on the back for that. Okay, so the next question is, you obviously worked on block 2, which was episode 7 to 12, and lots of that actually was either shot abroad, and kind of moved away from that, like that kind of those Irish scenes, those scenes shot in Ireland and Trinity. How do you get a sense of continuity, not only because you're shifting where you're shooting, but obviously Kate, you kind of had to keep it somewhat in line with episode 1 to 6, and how do you both prepare for those like technical differences that's required?
Sorry, I was actually just going to bring up some stills for this.
That's okay.
My multitasking didn't work out for that moment, but just bear with me.
Gail, do you want to start maybe whilst Kate sorts the slides out?
Yeah, I mean, we headed over to Italy, and obviously we went as a somewhat reduced crew. Not everybody got to come with us, and we then ended up sort of taking on and linking up with an Italian crew over there. And again, you've all those different things. They have sort of a different way of working. They have, we had a language barrier. Not all of the crew that came to work with us all spoke English. So it definitely took a little bit of finding our feet. Obviously we had to prep a lot of it from home. I said we did do Recce's part of going obviously over there, but like all the train work, etc., was, again, it's very time consuming. And when you're not physically, like if you're at home in Dublin or whatever, you've got the direct contact right there, whereas we were contacting somebody to contact somebody. So it became a harder sort of scenario to set up and organize and get all the logistics set in place. And again, Catherine Dunn would have been a huge communicator with Catherine McGee to try and keep pushing and getting all of that sort of ironed out. And all the questions, like, I mean, we all made lists of questions that we sent over to the Italian crew of, how they worked and how we worked, so they understood what we were doing before we got there. And then obviously when we got there, it was, I said, it took a couple of days, but they were just wanting to make sure that the Irish crew who came over all went away happy with what they got. So they were so fantastic and so keen to jump in and please and get things sorted for us. So within a day or two, we sort of settled into a filming manner between grips and lighting and ADs and camera people and all the different departments who ended up with the art department, like was massive, the props people. So everybody had new people they were melding with. And again, the schedule wasn't light over there. It was full on. And we had said we had to go off. I said another splinter mini unit, we splintered off to shoot on the train while another crew sort of stayed up to do the cycling prep work and get the rigging done for that. And I think, Kate, you look like you're ready to show something there. Will I let you just jump on? Otherwise, I could keep talking, but I was you want to show.
I was going to show a little bit of Sweden and the sort of challenge of shooting Sweden and Ireland.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sweden for Sweden.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't have any Italian photos. Sorry. My main memory from Italy is the fantastic cakes and espressos that we had. It was such a wonderful treat. So yeah, I guess like episode 9 is particularly interesting for trying to carry the continuity through from shooting interior Sweden and then also shooting exterior Sweden and Ireland. So this is obviously Sweden for Sweden, but it's definitely not Dublin. But like something like this is shot in Ireland, Bus Up a Daisy, where the light is, we sort of organized the light to come from below, that it was sort of bouncing from the snow, because we actually had salt. Yeah. It was salt out on the street, so I was able to kind of use that light from above, so it very much felt like it was, because it's such a specific light that comes from snow, like it's
a blue light,
quite to reconstruct. So it was important to really kind of try and carry that. You can see that's the same location there, and so that's our fake snow. And then this is in Dublin again. Costume obviously sells a huge part of it, and having no sun. So that's a wide shot of the same scene. So that's salt again.
Sorry, so that's all salt?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was actually in summer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Dublin summer.
So we had quite a few set moves on that day. And again, I think we had the flexibility if for some reason we started interior, I think, where we were at the party, and we had the flexibility that day we had 3 or 4 sets to try and get to that day. So if for some reason it felt like the timing we were going out there, that the sun seemed to be out, we had somewhere else to go. In the hope that the weather, again, obviously in Ireland, the weather changes every half hour. From sunshine to cloud to hail to whatever. So
we're so lucky actually with the weather.
Managed to get the perfect window of opportunity. And then that was your Dublin snow effects. The special effects did a great job, all out, because that's quite a vast area outside that window.
Mm-hmm. So that's all foam outside that was blowing around.
Wow.
Quite tricky. But again, you know, just being specific about what you're going to see, you know, having the time at the location with the recce's beforehand and saying, right, we're going to see just this angle through that window. That's what we're dealing with. Can we afford to cover that area?
And what was very important, she wasn't allowed to lift the blind any more than that.
Yeah. Because you'd see the green trees then.
To all sorts of trees. As you can see, you can just see tree trunks, because again, we weren't allowed to see leaves and stuff. So they're all the things that on the day you're like, yeah. But there seemed to be a great connection for the shots that were actually done away just did a great connection to make you feel in all the interior sets that you actually were in Sweden.
Yeah.
Like this is a frozen lake here, this shot. Oh, sorry, that's for the last question.
But that light actually is such an important factor in the whole season, in the whole series, I think. It's almost I don't know what would be the word. Like I find the photography of it so kind of fine art, if you like, and it's just kind of beautiful to be able to pick up the kind of nuances that light would be able to give you, you know, or that kind of reflection. It doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
It actually just feels gentle in a way, which is quite a lovely way to deal with light, I think.
Right. You have that sort of 45-minute window every day where you're going daylight to dark. And I said, I think there was so like that again would be a time where it's so imperative that me and Kate sit down and figure out our start times within days, and where we know we're going to get out to get, you know, particularly get a specific shot where you've got that 45-minute, if you're looking just for that moment of the falling of dusk.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you'd already have a camera out there, you know, if you were filming other stuff inside and it's just a moment, because you don't necessarily have a time to shoot an entire big scene in that 45-minute window. So usually you'd have found shots that work specifically for those times.
Yeah. Wherever
you happen to be, you then would have a second camera out there ready, and then it's like, okay, let's go and rehearse the half hour beforehand so we're ready. And then the second that it feels like the light is good, and then Kate will go, yeah, I'm happy with this. You'll start turning over just prior to that. Yeah. And then keep running right through and keep repeating that same thing, and you get that range of light, which then gives Kate and Hetty in the edit those different ranges to play with, whether they go a little darker or a little lighter.
Yeah, beautiful. actually, Gail, that kind of brings us along quite nicely in terms of kind of those challenges. So you actually identified that in pre-production that like it would be 8 days over. That's a good smile. What do you do as an AD when you're faced with that particular challenge, especially when you're considering the sheer amount of kind of intimacy scenes and dealing with that kind of like that lack of seasonality in terms of what the world is giving you kind of naturally? Like, how do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, when I came in and started my prep and I did my sort of first pass, so I had my scripts 7 to 12, and I sat down and I input them all, and then I sort of started making out at a first pass what I felt were shooting days. And at this point, I hadn't developed a relationship with Kate or Hetty, so I was doing a schedule blind of knowing how they were going to work. But in my mind and from my experience, when I put the schedule together, there was 8 days more required to shoot the amount that we needed to do.
Yeah.
That amount of days, you know, if I do a schedule and your first pass, you're sort of 3 days over, you kind of go, you know, we'll do some trims. By the time I sit down with Kate and Hetty or the director and the DOP, whatever the job happens to be, by the time we sit that down, we're going to rationalize some sets. We may reduce some sets. We'll rationalize some other stuff. You're probably going to shave off a day and a half or 2 days, and then there may just need to be looking at cuts or stuff then to figure your last day or banking up with some work. So, you know, if something, when you sit down and do your first pass, it's 3 days over, there isn't giant alarm bells in my head. However, when it's 8 days or more than 8 days over, alarm bells start to ring. And there's a point in time as a first AD, because a lot of people go, you know, you're the first, so the schedule is yours, you know what I mean? So you have to do the schedule. And I go, yes, I'll put together the schedule. But my first meeting, I had said I'd been in prep and got things up and running, and then Hetty had been forwards and back from the UK, and I sat down with the first day, and with our line producer and our producer, the two Catherines, and I was like, you know, guys, so this is our first sit down to chat through our months ahead of what we were about to embark on. And Kate, I said this is quite early on. I think Kate hadn't necessarily started at this point. So I was like, I hate to be the bringer of bad tidings. We're all here. I'm usually a very positive person, but unfortunately, you know, I can put stuff on paper, but what I put on paper doesn't mean it's achievable. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things as an AD, is not to feel pressured to squeeze it all in if you really don't think it's achievable. So you need to be really honest. And especially in the earliest stage, because then actually we can react to it and we can try and do something about it and we can try and fix it. So for me, it's about, I said, that first meeting where I was meeting Hetty, it was the first day Hetty was in, and we were sitting down with my first draft of the schedule. And I was like, hi guys, so lovely to meet you, Hetty, and all of that. And unfortunately, we're like way over. So as much as we're here to talk about the schedule, there's a bigger picture that I can't resolve. And not alone I, but not I, Hetty or Kate can fix. So I needed to sort of send it back to the producers and the, you know, line producer and say, we need to do something here. So as much as we can trim off days by rationalizing, doing simple stuff, it's not necessarily going to be achievable for us. And I said, I can make a document that fits into a certain number of days, but I know me, Hetty and Kate can't sign off on it because we won't be able to achieve them. Yeah. I think it's really, for me, at the beginning as a first AD, just to be very honest and just, you know, not feel under pressure. I'm not trying to please anyone or be the one with the negative news. I'm just being a realist. And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. So what are you going to do about it? And what was great was, Hetty was fantastic. She knew that there's things that, yes, when let's say she knew in her head the stuff that she had suggestions for writers and changes and things. We knew we were going to be able to rationalize sets. And then eventually we did get extra days because I said we realized, you know, it just wasn't going to be achievable. Yeah.
And Kate, like in response to that, like when, you know, I always feel that someone who has the creativity and the ability to kind of you know, produce such kind of lush imagery, I suppose, there's always like a thread that runs through those people to me, for me, and that is that they're quite dreamy. But like, how do you respond as a cinematographer to kind of, you know, someone like Gail being like, no, not gonna happen. So you know, like, so, and then that also leads me on to the final question before we open it up to the Q&A, which is, you know, you mentioned that you had to work quite instinctively because it was such an emotionally led, it's a very emotionally led book and a series, but also such an emotionally led performance. So how do you respond to that, Kate? Like, what were there anything that you changed, or, you know, anything that happened on set which really kind of took you in a different direction in quite an organic way?
Yeah. It's always, it's a delicate balance. It's like you have to, well, for me and how I work, I need to sort of put like half my brain into the kind of emotional end of things and the emotional response of a scene, and the other half needs to be kind of thinking practically and sort of logistically. But invariably that 50% split ends up shifting, you know, and that's where I think, you know, Gail comes in a way to sort of remind me to kind of access that sort of logic again.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be practical and real about things, because you can have great ambition, but like there's only a certain number of hours in the day.
Yeah.
And you got to cut your cloth. And so, I mean, for me, it is certainly a learning process of like identifying when a scene demands, you know, more nuance or more attention than another scene. And that, you know, I think I certainly learned from Hetty a lot in that respect, because she just has a huge body of experience. And also Gail, you know, both Gail and Hetty would have had a lot more experience than me going into this, just in terms of shooting drama. Like my background has mainly been documentary. And so yeah, it's just it's trying to juggle the two. I mean, I think it's just great that Gail said, right, look, we are 8 days over and this is how it is, and let's find the way through.
Yeah.
Rather than that information coming in, you know, to even 2 weeks before we, or a week before we go, and it's like, you know, we can't react. There's no space for any department to kind of.
Yeah. And does that enable you? Yeah. Does that enable you then to kind of process the fact that you need to maybe rein yourself in, but also enables you to kind of amend your vision already before actually hitting the set?
Yeah, like it's a great reality check, and sometimes actually it's helpful to give yourself, you know, more of a framework, or, you know, a tighter gap to really kind of shuffle the parts around and find, you know, maybe there's only one combination that those particular things sit into, rather than kind of being vague about it right up until.
Yeah.
You know, I think just this still that's up at the moment is kind of interesting in that Helen and Connell breaking up, and we, you know, we shot so we shot Paul first, and then as we turned the camera around and started filming Helen, or Aoife rather, he started to kind of explore further his character in that moment, and all of a sudden his whole kind of body position had shifted on the bed, And I was kind of looking at it at the corner of my eye going, oh, that's like so much better. I mean, it just says exactly what's going on in the scene. You know, he just doesn't want to talk to her, and his whole body language is saying that. And it's because the dialogue is so minimal and reduced, like body language. So that was kind of like all of a sudden a flag raised, and then you know, observing what was happening, and then we were like, Gail. And Gail's like, oh Jesus, we have we have no time. But you know, then it was like, well, look, this is actually really an important you know, this shift of body changes the whole scene, like just flips it and takes it to another level. And we discussed what scene was coming after that, and that maybe it wasn't necessarily as important in the whole kind of storytelling. And so that's the thing, you have to kind of be able to work on the macro level and all the detail, and be able to kind of assess and continually kind of, you know, move between those spaces. And so, I mean, Gail could probably fill in a little bit of her experience of that day. But
that particular scene was a scenario whereby there's been fully rehearsed with Hetty and the cast, and we'd done our private, we'd done our check, we'd started shooting the scene, we were already into our coverage, we were turning around on Helen, we had another move and another set to get to for another scene. I knew all our shots, so pretty much our timeline was, we were all on target, everything was lovely, everything was great. And then what's testament to, I think, how the floor was and how the environment of the set was, Paul felt relaxed and open enough to be able to say, I'd actually like to explore this position. Obviously, again, like I said earlier, if the triangle of the Hetty, me and Kate wasn't getting on, I don't think for a minute the cast member, you know, if we were all tense and we were all saying, we're running out of time, you know, if you've all that sort of feeling, he wouldn't have felt comfortable in the moment to say, actually, if I was to go here and be like, this feels right to me. And I love that. To me feels a compliment to us all, that he felt comfortable enough to go and explore that. There didn't feel like there was pressure on the set. I never want the cast to feel, as much as I might be screaming on the inside, to feel that that's the case on the set. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we want them to give a fabulous performance that we're all going to love to watch on the telly.
Which we did.
Conversations with Hetty, and it said, I mean, my favorite part of that shot is where his eyes are in shadow, and then we jumped into the shot of his eye, like within that scene. I mean, those two shots literally turned that scene inside out. Yeah, and it's a beautiful scene. And if we had not agreed to exploring that with Paul, the scene wouldn't be what it was on the television. Yeah, but, you know, further conversations, as Kate said, with Hetty and herself, we knew we had to move to another set, but the scene we were doing over there, the weight of importance was nothing like this moment of them breaking up. So absolutely, where are we going to invest our time? We're going to invest our time here with Paul. Yeah, he deserves the respect to do that. Again, because he wouldn't ask for it all the time. Daisy and Paul would come in word perfect day in, day out. Hetty and the relationship they had, they knew where they were. Hetty was so meticulous in understanding the entire book, script, and every beat of all the emotions that were going on. Yeah. That, you know, all our other days, like there was very few times where things needed to be changed, because actually everyone would come to an agreement. But it was so lovely to know that the cast felt comfortable to ask for it whenever they did, which they would have done on the here and there a few times. And that's it. We're always going to be flexible on a set. It's never always going to be what you've said it's going to be. And that's the key. And that's what makes it great. It's about, and the whole crew knowing the flexibility is, we said we were going to do that, but actually no, you know, we're going to make a little change here, and we're all just going to get on board and get on with it and make it happen. And we did.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Well, listen, I think it's amazing, and like huge and sincere congratulations to you, because I think you've managed to create something which has just had such a it's such a profound kind of way of storytelling, I think, and I think it's so human and really relatable, and I think, you know, I'm sure it's kind of the success of it has actually, I mean, I know, like, Kate, you're a bit like, wow, like what's happened in the last kind of 2 or 3 months, you know, since it's kind of been on telly. So huge congratulations and well done. And I think it sounds as if the way that you've worked together has just been so positive and dynamic, and yeah, go ahead.
I think also what's imperative, and I think we've sort of said it throughout the whole thing, but as the other DOP, Susie and Dara, obviously that whole first 6 episodes was sort of the lead in to allow us to take over and carry on what they set up as a fantastic, you know, a base for us to step in. So, and again, all like-minded people, all wanting the same result, which was a great project.
Yeah.
So we were lucky that, because again, a pre-DOP and a pre-first, who again might have had, we could have been stepping into an uncomfortable set, or a crew who were overtired and annoyed and pissed off, and where there hadn't been a comfortable set. So testament to obviously Susie and Dara for, as the DOP in the first, from the first
the first block.
They obviously set a feeling in the set that we then were able to step into and carry on that sort of positive feel. So I think that's sort of an important thing to say.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, are you both all right to stick around for a bit, because there's quite a lot of questions? Is that okay, Gail? How's the husband and the dog situation?
I think the dog is still chewing out in the hallway. We're safe.
Okay, good. And have we still got the attendees? Put a yes in the chat box, and then we'll kind of crack on. Okay, let me go through these. There's actually quite a lot of questions here about women crew, and so let's start with this one. Actually, did Sally Rooney, who's the writer, have any input in the adaptation? Hello? Yeah, anyone?
Well, I didn't hear your question, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't daydreaming, it was actually the connection.
Did Sally Rooney have any input on the adaptation?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, she was actively involved along with Alice Birch and Mark O'Rourke. Am I right?
I believe so, but I said that involvement was probably more noticeable in the earlier prep of Block 1. So again, I wouldn't have had any interaction or conversations with herself, but I believe she was involved, but don't take it as a given from me.
Okay. Kate, this is for you. So considering that you're kind of the majority of your work has been documentary based, what was it like to kind of move into telly and you know, a different set of circumstances and a different form of storytelling?
Yeah, I love shooting drama now. I find it hard to step back. I'm actually shooting a documentary at the moment, which is just myself and the director. It's like whittled right down. So I'd sort of got used to, you know, delegating and coordinating and team, which is lovely, I think, in drama, that you've got this great sense of possibility and resources and energy, and you're all kind of focused in on this one challenge, you know. So yeah, I get a real energy out of it, and I quite like the fact that I've got that sort of you know, history behind me that I've spent so many hours observing people. Theory on my iPad just going crazy.
That's okay.
Yeah, just like hours watch it, you know, observing people. So then somehow that's all in my library of how I respond to drama.
Yeah.
But it still, I mean, it still feels like very early days for me, and still huge mental.
Yeah. And how did you, someone's asking, how did you end up getting involved with Normal People? Had you worked with Hetty before?
Had I worked with Hetty before?
Yeah.
Is that the question? No. No. Yeah, we met and we had a lovely conversation first up. Yeah, just, I don't know, sometimes you just, when you meet people, there's an instant kind of connection there. And yeah, it was really great working with her because, as I said, she has this huge working in TV, and so yeah, it just she really trusted me, and it was a great kind of dynamic.
Yeah. Great. And just kind of sticking with you for a second, Kate, someone's asking, how many cameras did you use? This is a tech question. Was it one camera operation? Was it a one camera operation job? And secondly, which camera did you use and what is its dynamic range? And then they say that they were impressed by the lighting direction on most scenes.
Okay. So we shot on the Alexa Mini, and we had about 10 days of BCam in and around.
Yeah, we had to specify where we wanted it, so we didn't have all the time. So
on the first block, so episodes 1 to 6, they had Steadicam throughout
the whole thing.
And then we had about 10 days of BCam, and I suppose, like, let's say in Italy, you know, it sort of developed into a kind of a second unit at moments, so that we could be off shooting on the train while Rob Flood was setting up with, you know, it was almost just, we had to split the crew in a way, because, you know, we weren't necessarily resourced for having second unit, but everybody made it work. So we had
was there, yeah,
that hit Italy, so it was when needs must. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? So, Nina's actually asking, was there any scene or location that was particularly difficult to shoot? I mean, I suppose we've gone through the lighting and, you know, all of that, but was there anything else that proved really tricky on that series for you?
Driving work?
I don't know. I mean, I guess Connell's bedroom was pretty tight, but in a way I quite liked the challenge of it being in a studio and actually having huge possibility of lighting, you know, like I haven't shot a whole lot in studio, so it was interesting just to kind of explore that. We had trans lights outside the windows. I mean, yeah, like that, the club scenes were a little bit tricky in that they weren't in a club.
Were they not?
No.
So. Oh God, I loved that scene.
Black box.
Black box. It was in a box.
In block one they were. In block one they were. However, we built a black box.
Well, that was actually, that comes back to the conversation about, okay, we don't have time to go to the nightclub location, so how can we manage to shoot those scenes in that same day? Find a location where we can erect a black box, and basically it's the light, music, and then we had just Lucy, the production designer, gave us some mirror, like pillared mirrors, and so that just, I guess, maybe just about sold it.
And then what lenses did you have? Because obviously there are like those gorgeous kind of wide scenes in Italy, and then, you know, as Gail was saying earlier, like the absolutely tight up close scene of like the eyes and the mouths and the skin, and you know. So what different lenses did you use, Kate?
So we had the K35s, which are a beautiful set of lenses. And then 2 additional focal lengths from Master Primes. I guess for me the K35s, the range was there was a couple of gaps in the focal lengths, and so I quite like, and so I put the 40mm and a 21mm in with that. That box of lenses, and then we would have just used diopters to get those close shots.
And did you use any filters? Someone's asking if you used filters at all.
No.
Was that done in post? Any kind of light, any color fixing or anything? Was that would have been done in post, right?
Like setting the color, I guess, like we had a broad sort of LUT, and then, you know, that, so you would just set your look then broadly for that day, and then in the grade then you sort of fine tune it.
Yeah. Okay.
So there were filters of any kind. It was just like NDs to control the light.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. I think I've covered the majority of those techie questions. Gail, this one is for you. And actually, there's a few kind of questions here about the relationship between yourselves and the intimacy coordinator. So, could you just give us some insight into what your relationship was with? There were 2 intimacy coordinators, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what was your relationship with them, and also how did you kind of go about working? I suppose we're moving away from the triangle now to a square, so it would be like yourself, the intimacy coordinator, the actors, and Hetty, the director, or maybe even Kate as well.
Yeah, so it was quite a structured situation, is probably the best way to sort of say it. You know, we literally had a very set routine. So as I said, prior to the actual shoot day. Hello?
Hello?
Oh,
sorry. We can hear you.
Has something happened in my picture? I think
no, we can see you.
That's okay, great.
Yeah.
Sorry, please, something changed on my screen here. So yeah, so there was sort of a very good structure in place, which again had been established by the first block. So at least a system had been ironed out, if that makes sense, which would have been the difficulty for the first block to figure out, to make sure it was all going to work and run smoothly. What would happen would be very clearly would be the intimacy coach, director and cast would have all met prior to the shoot day, and would have gone through the entire scene. They would have talked through their emotional beats, their queries, their questions, their concerns, their worries. So what was great is prior to coming on set on the day, they would have already been put at ease, if that makes sense. And then obviously on the day, we would have a system set in place. And it was actually the first job where I've worked with official intimacy coaches who came onto the set and basically run the day, if that, run the set and the scenes with you and the director. And what we would do is we'd obviously have a totally closed set. So the only monitors that were available would have been the monitor for Hetty, who is our director, and depending on the location, whether the continuity person could sit directly beside, but there was only one monitor really available. And then we had another second monitor then available just for the hair and makeup people. So it was very much the closed set, whereby we would then go in and rehearse. We'd clear the floor altogether. There'd be nobody in and around the set whatsoever. And there was a good few of our intimacy scenes had moments whereby we had a stunt coordinator coordinator working with us, where we had moments where there might have been pressure, or where we had anything forceful been taking place, we had a stunt coordinator with us, who was Emer O'Grady, who was also amazing. And what we would do is we'd go through the scenes, block it through as per the rehearsal they'd done with Hetty and the intimacy coaches prior to shooting, figure it all out now that we were physically in on the set that we were working on. And, we would then talk through the shots. So Kate, Hetty, myself and the intimacy coach, and with the cast, we would go step by step what the shots were going to be and what would or wouldn't be seen or visible, etc. So again, the costume department became a really integral part of all of that, for what modesty wear we were going to use. And obviously, depending on which bit of coverage, so it suddenly becomes quite a mechanical scenario in our discussions, which takes, again, the awkwardness or the embarrassment away for the likes of Paul, Daisy, or Aoife, or whoever happened to be involved in the intimacy scenes. So it just, again, I think it made it all feel, they felt comfortable and confident that we all knew what we were doing. We'd stripped the crew, again, who would come in on set, was pared right back to an absolute minimum. So we had very few people on set. The rest of the set would pretty much be cleared. And then myself and Jess, who was a standby from costume, we'd a system whereby we had the robes would be on the cast. They would obviously have gone away while we got set up, and they would, whatever we decide, so it'd be very clear, we'd know which shot we were going first for. So therefore the costume department knew that we were setting up for what variation of modesty wear. So are we seeing just from the neck up? So therefore we can have all sorts of modesty wear on down below. Are we from the waist up? Are we now seeing the entire sideline of the body, which meant that now it's not just nude wear or whatever. We now need to see like their skin along their legs. So now it's more about smaller modesty wear. So all of that was all so shot per shot, it was really clear cut. Everybody knew what we were doing. The cast knew exactly where the camera was going to be. And when we would then go to shoot it, we'd bring the cast in on set. They'd be wearing their robes. I said there was absolute silence. Everybody was really respectful as a crew. And I said we would call to turn over. We'd turn over and we get the board on and make sure the intimacy coach would check with the cast, is everybody happy? Are we all ready? And again, if anyone had any questions or concerns, it was always okay to say it, never to be afraid to voice a question. There's never a stupid question, put it that way. You know what I mean? So never feel, oh, we're about to, we'll just go for the whatever. So always knowing there was the comfortable space to always broach a question at any time it was required. So once the board was on and we were turning over and everyone was fully set, then we would call for robes off, at which point myself and Jess would step in, remove the robes, and then we'd clear, again, obviously settle and clear, and then we'd call action, we'd run our scene. Again, something that the cast were always aware is that they had an outward. So again, if something, it could be the modesty wear is moving, or they're not, or so they're not uncomfortable, or something sticking in their back, whatever it was, they had an outward that they knew they could call. And it could, like, what was funny, and again, taking the intimacy away, it could be a word like elephant, or it could be a word like rabbit, or, you know, it was something not relevant to anything to do with intimacy scenes. They always knew they had that get out. And then the moment Hetty would call cut, I would immediately call for robes on. Myself and Jess would step in, we'd put robes on the cast, allow them to fully cover up, and then we'd open up the set to Hetty to be, or whoever needs to come in to talk, or if makeup needs to come in to retouch-ups and stuff like that. So it's very structured, which in that way, I don't think, you know, it allowed them to feel comfortable at all times.
Yeah, I mean, we had I think we actually have one of the speakers from a Wednesday workshop that we did a couple of weeks ago as an introduction to intimacy coordinating, Lizzie Talbot. I think she's on the call actually, and it's just been so amazing working with them. You know, I think it's in the UK, it's such a new kind of role or a new concept of having that role on set, and I think it's just so vital that, you know, people like actors,
it just brings real clarity to things. Sorry.
And I think something that is like very important to note, because people would think, okay, so the scene was finished and we all just moved on.
Yeah.
Something that was amazing that I thought was really important for both Daisy and Paul and Helen, or who again, all the cast, whoever were involved at any intimacy scenes, is when the scene ended, and even that afternoon, or it depending on the first end of the day, throughout the day, the intimacy coach would touch base with them again and just go, how are you feeling? Again, in case something had gone wrong or was annoying them, or they were worried about it, just to recap with them and sort of confirm with them that everything went well and are they happy with how things went. And I think even there was phone calls in the evening time or the day after.
Yeah.
Again, I said, you know, Daisy and Paul are both so young. It was a huge undertaking for them. And again, you forget the length of that job. I mean, they were in so many of the scenes. And like Daisy again and Paul would be up at 5 a.m, sitting in makeup and hair chairs, coming to set at 8 o'clock, rehearsing. And it could be emotional scenes and intimacy scenes. And there's so much, it could be 8 pages of dialogue. And I said, so it was a very long job for them. So especially in our second block and those intimacy scenes, because when you're tired and when you're whatever, when you go away and go home, there's things you could start worrying about or doing whatever. So what I loved about the interview, her job didn't finish when the scene finished. She was in touch thereafter, just to make sure both Paul and Daisy and whoever cast were all happy and comfortable and still happy with how everything went, and if there was any changes that they would like to ever make.
Yeah, and also I suppose that the action of de-rolling, you know, and I think the importance of really applying appropriate language to the character as opposed to the actor themselves. So I think it's fantastic and I really hope that like that kind of culture really picks up in the UK, you know, in terms of having intimacy coordinators, because I think it's like only one of the ways I think that we can make not actors only feel safe, but to ensure that crew are also safe in how they deal with scenes and filming. Okay, thank you so much. So a couple of people have noted that it's really fantastic to see so many women across the whole creative team. Was this circumstantial or brought about on purpose, do you think?
Well, I think it was something like 52%, which is quite significant. But I think the camera department and the grip and the line department might have brought that figure down a bit. I certainly want to be more active about hiring women in my department, but it certainly, I mean, it felt like a very comfortable working space, and it is interesting. I only heard that percentage recently, that was the figure of male versus female in the crew, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a scenario, again, my biggest thing is that everyone is only as good as their last job. And, you know, again, that thing of being a female or not being a female, I think what's important is, I think I'd always hope that I've been taken on the merit of my job and how well I do it, as opposed to the fact that I'm a female. It's great there was so many females, but to me, I think I'd always like to know that we're not just taking females on because we should take them on to tick a box of something, if that makes sense. I think it's important, and I think it keeps every person striving to be the best on every job, because if you're not good on the job, then you're not going to get the next job. I think it's imperative that you're always striving to be the best at what you do, and irrelevant whether you're a male or a female. And it just did seem like there was quite, like, the line producer, the producer, the art, like our designer. And obviously then we had Hetty, myself, and Kate on the first part. So there was a lot of females in there. But again, we just all worked and got on well, and it was a really great job. That would probably be more of a producer's question, because I don't I'm hoping I was taken on for the merit of my work,
Yeah.
as opposed to the fact I'm a female.
Yeah.
I would never want to be employed just because I'm a woman. That would actually annoy me.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You know what I mean? Because I know there's a little bit of a trend where people are saying, you know, you have to take on girls or do whatever. And I said, even within my AD team, you know, I'm going to take people on because they're good at what they do. And as it turns out, there are girls in all my department, all the way through from the second AD, and it happened to be there was trainees. It was a male who was our third, but I said there was definitely females, but because they were just good at what they did, so
Yeah.
that's the job, and I think that's important. But I said, as ourselves, as a group of three of us who were in that second block as female HODs, the good thing is I think we all deserve to be there, because I think without blowing our own trumpets, I think we're just good at what we do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the producers wanted to run smoothly. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
That does. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move. There's a couple of kind of crew questions. Caroline wants to know who the gaffer was. Kate, that's for you.
Sorry, you're going to have to go again. It broke up.
Oh, sorry. Caroline wants to know who your gaffer was.
Oh, Garrett Baldwin.
Okay.
The fantastic Garrett.
Thank you.
Actually, a great character as well. So he was lovely to work with.
Yeah.
Like very talented, but also just lovely.
Yeah. And then someone else is asking. Tom's asking, what was the relationship that you had with the production designer?
That would be more for Kate.
That's for me. So Lucy, I always struggle with her surname.
Van Longhuizen.
There you go. Sorry, Lucy. Yeah, so Lucy was on the job from the very beginning. So it was trying to catch a hold of her in prep when she was still like, she had so much to do, like continually. But yeah, no, great energy and a good collaboration. So yeah.
Yeah, and again, what was amazing with the relationship, let's say for Kate and Lucy really cared about colours and tones for Kate. Like, so, you know, when they were going in to do Connell's college bedroom or whatever, the colours and the tones for how Lucy was going, or how Kate was going to light it, was really important for Lucy to make sure she was doing the right thing. So there was a good collaboration between them all the time, just making sure all the colours and the tones matched, again, whether it was going to be Sweden or whether it was Ireland, or whether, you know, we knew we were going to be lighting something because it was always going to be dark and emotional, or, you know, so I think that was a great little combination between the two of you. You were both very open to making things work. And I think for me, I think it was, again, just the timelines for me, because of constantly the art department. And as Kate said, they were already up and running. So Lucy was been pulled from what's been shot now to trying to then work to what we wanted. And you know, there was set bills. It was all very, and it said the Connell's room moved from one location to another location. Then the first block, they had it in one studio, and then it moved to another studio when we went to shoot it. So there was a lot to be figured out with her. It said with us and as Hetty, Kate and myself, with Owen and Lucy. Owen, as I said earlier, the location manager, and Lucy and they actually were husband and wife. They were an amazing team, and both individually we had to do a lot of figuring out with both of them on timelines, when sets would be ready, and when stuff was available, or, you know, availability of a location and dates, and whether Lucy could have it set, dressed and ready for us. So my schedule would depend like quite heavily on what the designer, and also obviously the location manager, what their restrictions are, or what their timelines for their manpower of getting sets ready or not ready, to facilitate us getting into film it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Gail. Okay, this is going to be the final question. And that is, are you surprised by the reaction that the show has received? And also, what was your kind of real takeaway moments from the experience of working on the show?
Well, were we surprised by the reaction? Is it?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, no, I got that bit, and then just what was our takeaway?
Yeah. What have been the kind of most meaningful things that you've taken away, I suppose, from working on the show?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I guess because you're getting all these messages in, and everybody's in lockdown, and it's like, all of a sudden just gathering momentum, and it's hard. It was sort of hard that it was actually like happening, that it wasn't just some kind of joke, because you're not out talking to people. It's just it seemed kind of, there was a slight removal of, yeah, I mean, totally bowled over. I guess we knew that the book was already kind of huge following, and so that was a good place to start. But you never know, like, there's just parts to making that to screen. It's such precarious in a way that there's never a guarantee that that is going to translate into a great show, So definitely delighted with the response. I mean, I think the lockdown certainly has compounded the effect.
And what about you, Gail?
So was I surprised at how successful it was? Again, obviously we know the book did really well, but again, whether something is going to convey onto screen, you never really know what's going to happen. But what I will say is, I said you work on lots of jobs and you kind of go at the end, you don't really know, will it be good, or will people like it or dislike it? But I just know, for me, I know there was so many occasions while we were shooting, and I'd be somewhere, whether I was either near Kate or whether I was near Hetty, near the monitor, whichever one I happened to be close to, and where we would run a scene. And again, it is all about Paul and Daisy, and all the other casts were amazing, but there was scenes so many times on this job, which doesn't usually really happen to me, where I would literally, as we'd have cut, I'd be goosebumps throughout the scene, and I could feel my eyes even welling up in feeling their emotion. So once that's sort of, I said, I'm very much in a practical manner, standing there calling roll, do, set, do, go, action, all that, but suddenly when you realize that standing watching it, you're just making it for TV, it's not real, but I was caught up in their emotion while we were shooting some of the scenes. So when that hits you, you kind of go, when you leave it all, you go, I know that I said to Paul and Daisy, I said, I think this is going to propel the two of you. Really hope it does, is what I said to them, because they were so amazing to work with. They, as I said, they came to work like hitting it every day. They just literally hit the marks. They got their dialogue, they got the emotion. Every little box was ticked. And what was amazing is they were so lovely and gorgeous as two people, because again, not saying it, but cast can be a different type of people to all of us. And not all are as pleasant to deal with as others. They were just utterly pleasant. So I had told them, I said, whatever you do, I have a feeling this is going to definitely hit a mark, and I think it's going to propel the two of you, and they deserve every bit of credit they ever get coming to them.
Yeah.
And I'm so delighted that it is as successful as it is, because they had a lot of hours and a lot of time, and I said they literally came in every day, and as tired as they were pleasant and wonderful, and they became part of the crew. Everybody, we all loved them, everybody loved them. They were part of the crew, they were one of us. So that was fantastic. So you could feel that on the job, and I could feel a sense that I think it was going to be a good job.
Yeah.
Other jobs, you don't necessarily get that feeling of, you think it's going to be good, or people might like it, but there was a good feel about it. And I said you could tell their performance, you kind of knew it was just going to win people over, because it was so real.
Yeah.
Everybody could relate to it.
Yeah.
So people, even from teenagers up, can actually relate to what they were conveying on the screen. And I think that's why it sort of suddenly has hit people. And again, obviously the lockdown, as you said, it sort of compounds it all. And as for what did we take away from it as a thing or an instance, the moments taken away again. I think it was just those emotional scenes were just so nice to be a part of, you know. Yeah.
Amazing. And if people who are on the call want to learn a bit more about yourself and Kate, what is your website that people can have a little look at your work?
www.katemccullough.net.
Okay, and yourself, Gail?
I'm not as Fandango. I don't have a website, but I mean, if you look me up on IMDb, I mean,
it's all there.
All there. Exactly. I work through sort of film, TV, and production, and so sort of a quite an array of stuff. I don't just stick with TV. So
yeah, okay. Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been so great kind of planning this with you, and I'm sincerely grateful for your time, as is Bectu. And again, if we have anyone who'd like to join the union, if you're in the camera branch or the department, the AD's department, then you can join. I'll put the phone number in the chat box. But Kate McCullough and Gail, am I saying this in the right Irish accent? Munnelly.
Munnelly, very good.
Great, okay. There's nothing worse than being a Welsh person who gets an Irish person's name incorrect. It's very embarrassing and not good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves, and we wish you all the best with your next projects that you're going to be working on. Well done once again on Normal People. It's been amazing.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Please. Bye.
Thanks, Kate.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah. You can leave now. I'll just leave the chat going if anyone wants to kind of put anything down there.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Nia. You've been great.
Okay, bye. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.